Hello and welcome to the Carl Jackson Show. Guys, we got so much to talk about. It's insane. I'm going to focus on one particular issue with my guest. We'll get to him in just a second. You've seen him before. You know him. He is a great guest. I actually had someone stop me one time and say, hey, I listened to a podcast with this particular guest and I loved it. And I thought that was really cool. So he's hearing that for the first time. But he's a great expert. We will get to him, and it is Dr. Currie Myers. He is America's criminologist. You can find him on Substack at drcurriemyers.substack.com. But the main topic that we're going to be talking about is migrant crime, illegal immigration crime. But obviously, there's lots of stories that are hitting the news. We're also going to touch upon the shooting that occurred in Georgia earlier at the high school. I really want to get his thoughts on that. And so as a matter of fact, why don't we do this, Gabe, right from the onset? Vice President Kamala Harris years ago had something to say. I don't know even what Tony numbered this because guys, I realize this is podcast and also this is TV. But sometimes we do stuff on the fly, or at least I do. And my guys really love it when I do that. But Kamala Harris came out earlier this week. Not earlier this week, but she came out before and said that basically we need to demilitarize our schools. Gabe, I don't know what that number is, but if you do and can roll it, let's go ahead and roll that. I want to get Dr. Currie Myers' response to that right away, given what happened at Appalachia High School in Georgia earlier.
And then also, again, what we need to do about demilitarizing our schools. And taking police officers out of schools. We need to deal with the reality and speak the truth about the inequities around school discipline.
Okay, Doc, listen, I honestly don't even know where you stand on this. I know where I stand personally. I'd love to see schools that have armed officers, whether they're retired, whether they're on duty, to keep our kids safe. Personally, I don't mind if teachers are trained properly, if they carry. Not sure where you fall on that, but either way, what is your reaction to what Kamala Harris said, Vice President Kamala Harris? I assume then Senator at the time, I suspect. What's your thought on that?
Well, Carl, as always, thanks for having me on the show. And it was kind words that person told you. So thanks for sharing that. What Kamala Harris just said is actually what has been done in many areas across the country already as a result of her comments. In fact, Minnesota, and we know why Minnesota is now important, right? Because we have the person that's now running for vice president, who is the current governor of Minnesota. They have worked very hard to kick police officers out of the schools, and that's occurring. I saw just today a friend of mine on LinkedIn said that they're unfortunately having to close their police officers at their schools in Maple Grove, Minnesota. And that's an example of many cities, many police departments that have now had to remove police officers because they actually have legislation in Minnesota that forces police officers to get out of the school systems. The problem is this has nothing to do with police officers in the schools. Police officers are very important to have in the schools because of safety and security. Would I like to be in an America where we didn't need armed security and police officers in the schools? Sure. I would love to go back to when I was in school and we didn't have those problems. But the world has changed and it's gotten worse with crime. And police officers being assigned to the school play a very important role. As a matter of fact, there's been multiple occasions where police officers have stopped a shooting incident prior to it occurring as a result of being in schools. And there's times where they have reacted quick enough that they've stopped it from being turned into a huge mass casualty event. So police officers play an important role. I do think it's up to the local jurisdiction, the police department. My hope is police departments are willing to assign SROs to schools. If they aren't, then certainly school security should be kept in mind for security. But I'm a big believer in police officers with jurisdiction being involved in the schools because they can act as police officers when they're interacting. When they have security that just works for the school district, then you're serving somebody else. You're not serving law enforcement. You're serving the school superintendent. And then all of a sudden what you do can get watered down and you can be pretty ineffective.
That's a good point.
So if I'm going to choose, I would choose to have authorized jurisdictional police officers assigned to the schools like we've had in probably the last 20 to 25 years. And it has worked extremely well.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me read just something to you real quickly here, Doc. This is from AWR Hawkins on Breitbart. He writes for Breitbart. He talks about the shooting that occurred at the high school. He says here, or writes here on Wednesday, Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith made clear the Appalachia High School attacker was stopped by an armed school resource officer.
Yeah,
Doc, I got to be honest with you. I didn't hear that when I was listening to this story all day. Frankly, I didn't even hear it on conservative media for a while. So it just proves that, everybody wants to go out and get the story. But school resource officers are valuable, especially in the times that we're living in, where you have more broken homes. You have, less fathers in the home. Sadly, fewer people going to church, and more people, that are agnostic or hate God. I mean, this is the type of culture that we live in today. Doc, just real quick, 30 seconds or less, just share with people your history, because I want to make sure that people understand that you've got some serious street cred when it comes to criminology before we get into this immigration or this migrant crime, illegal immigration crime, whatever you want to, frame it as.
You bet. Started out my career as a Kansas state trooper, did that for 5 years. Then I became a Kansas Bureau of Investigation special agent, where I worked undercover. I was assigned to DEA task force for 5 years. I then transferred to the field and worked homicides, police corruption, public corruption. Even when I worked undercover, I did murder for hires as well as large drug purchasing and cases. I was head of our clandestine lab team, so I have a very good background in clandestine labs, especially synthetic drugs. That's where I did my dissertation. I went and got my doctorate in criminal justice. I'm an applied criminologist. I then ran for sheriff and was elected sheriff of Johnson County, Kansas, which is the largest populated county in the Kansas City metro area. And I've been on faculty now for 13 years at Benedictine College, which is a Catholic college just north of Kansas City. And I'm on faculty in the criminology department there as well. So I've had a great career, 24 years on the job. And now I write, not only teach, but I write a lot. As a matter of fact, just today I put out a perspective on the school shooting in Nashville that occurred at the Christian school, because the manifesto of the shooter was released by a paper, and I was able to research that, do in-depth work at it, and I did a response, a criminological perspective, if you will, on the shooting and what the shooter was thinking.
I tell you what, let's do this, because this was going to be a question that I was going to ask you later on in the program. We've got just 2 minutes in this block, but this is a very important story. This is a story that was kept from the public for quite some time. I have my suspicions as to why, but tell us as quickly and as thoroughly as you can, Doc. What did you find in your research? What did you find in that manifesto, if you will, or at least I think it was a diary of some sort, a 90-page diary of the trans shooter that shot up the Christian school in Nashville, Tennessee?
Well, it wasn't released because it didn't fit a political narrative, and that's transgenderism in the incredible mental illness that's associated with gender identity and gender fluid people who are having problems. There's some research that shows about 40% of people that are struggling with gender identity have some sort of suicidal ideation. It's even higher that seek mental health treatment. So as a matter of fact, Carl, the last 5, we don't know much about the Georgia shooter yet, of course, but the last 5 mass shooters that have occurred have all had gender confusion issues. The last 5.
I remember reading that, and I'll be honest with you, Doc, I had completely forgotten about that. So I'm glad you brought that up. A minute left. Go ahead.
So the perspective I wrote, number one, we have a significant disconnect between public safety and mental health. We don't communicate at all. We don't communicate very well. This person had been seeking major treatment for mental health issues, including suicidal ideation. Law enforcement was unaware of that. The person even was able to buy legally handguns, even though that she had a verified mental illness, because as you know, there's 3 disqualifiers for purchasing legally a firearm, and that is a felonious record. That is some sort of serious mental health issue, and that's drug dependency. And so there's a disconnect there. So we have to work on that. The other thing is we have to use evidence-based policing, which I'm a big supporter of. And the last thing, which is very important, crime prevention through environmental design, designing facilities to make sure that we can mitigate crime.
We'll come back to that. Dr. Currie Myers is my guest. Stay tuned. Today's show is brought to you in part by Priority Gold. Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA or your 401k and your 401k account as the stock market braces for an impact. With inflation on the rise and global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold. In times like this, Proverbs 21:20 reminds us to reserve what we built. Right now, that wisdom points us towards gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, time to make it a priority. My name is Carl Jackson, and I'm urging you to call my friends at Priority Gold to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Remember that gold is a hedge against inflation. You can call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit PriorityGold.com/golden for a free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Act now to get your portfolio working for you, while the market is golden. Call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit PriorityGold.com/golden to learn more. Again, that number, 1-800-405-GOLD. Also, I want to talk to you about MyPillow real quickly here. You've asked, and MyPillow has listened. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever. Right now, you can get the queen size premium MyPillow for just $19.98. MyPillow is made with a patented adjustable feel. It adjusts to your exact individual needs, regardless of your sleep pattern or position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long, so you get the best sleep of your life. Plus, it keeps you cool as well. But that's not all. You can get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets for just $25. The brand new mattress topper for as low as $69.98. That's insane. And their famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow that's just $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay. Order today. Use promo code Carl at checkout. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, I'm joined by my guest, Dr. Currie Myers. He is America's criminologist. Again, you can find him on Substack at drcurriemyers.substack.com, and he spells Currie, C-U-R-R-I-E. So for those of you that may be hungry right now, it's not like curry chicken, C-U-R-R-Y. It's C-U-R-R-I-E. All right, so you guys heard about his experience earlier. I mean, the things that he's been involved with in law enforcement literally makes my jaw drop sometimes. We've had conversations before in other podcasts and off air. Just absolutely amazing. His knowledge of law enforcement is absolutely extensive. So I thought he was the proper person to bring on to talk about this migrant crime. He's just excellent on this type of stuff. Before we get to that, though, Doc, I do have to ask you this. The Trump assassination attempt, I know everybody, particularly on the left, wants to forget it. And obviously, it's not the biggest topic in the news, which is absolutely insane to me, experiencing that and living through history, not to mention Joe Biden being kicked out of office. But let me just get your response to this headline. Whistleblowers allege that agents were given grossly inadequate training. Basically, some of the agents that were there were not Secret Service agents, and they were from the Department of Homeland Security, and they watched a 2-hour webinar before they were released and or allowed were sent to protect the life of former President Donald Trump. Let me get your reaction to that before we get into this situation with the migrant crime.
Well, it breaks my heart because I am a big fan